Hi and welcome to the Psychology Department at Andover College. I'm Nikki Yates
And I'm Sharon Dean.
and we're just going to talk you through some of the courses that we offer in the Psychology Department and give you a little bit of information about psychology generally. So psychology courses are sometimes referred to as one of the social science courses, and that's because we delve into human nature and look at humans and their brains and their behaviour. It is important to note that though we often fall under social sciences, we are a science subject, so we're carrying out experiments on humans instead of kind of chemicals and plants. So you still need to learn about things like independent variables, dependent variables, so those kind of sciencey aspects. We will explore a whole range of different topics, looking at the complexities of the human mind. We'll look at developmental stages, so we'll really explore a vast variety of different topics, and this will hopefully as well enable you to develop some really crucial skills going forward in your studies that you'll be able to apply to your other subjects, but also if you decide to take on a subject at degree level later on.
Yeah, so I always think if you're interested in psychology and that's a subject you want to do, you really need to know and want to have a really key enthusiasm for people and always be wondering why people are doing what they're doing. I think I got into psychology because I'm just really nosy and like to know what people are up to and why they're doing it. So have a real interest in exploring human behaviour. Um, it will then, you will find yourself once you're on the course applying it to your everyday life and starting to see as you're walking around the shops, while you're at home, while you're watching films, you'll be able to see psychology really working, and it does really give you an insight into what's going on in people's minds. There are loads of courses here that you can follow if you want to go with us with psychology. You can do the more practical stuff or you can go with the more theoretical stuff. It's up to you and the choice is there.
So in terms of the courses we have available, there's a variety of different options. So Sharon's going to start by talking through the level 2 psychology option.
Okay, so the level 2 psychology is equivalent to a GCSE in psychology. It's a full-time course and it will fit in beautifully with your other level 2 courses that you do. To be able to get on the course, you need 5 GCSEs at grade 9 to 3. You do need to have English in there somewhere. The course itself, there are no exams, so hooray. You are assessed through a portfolio that you build up over the year, and you're assessed in a few different ways. So there's a bit of writing, there's a bit of talking, and there's a bit of doing experiments. We look at, so just a little flavour of some of the topics we look at things like developmental psychology. So things like, does language come from inside us, or is it something we learn? Is it species specific? So is it just something humans can do, or maybe other species can have a go at it? Towards the end of the course, the really exciting bit and the bit students love is we look at psychopaths and serial killers, and you get to tell me about maybe your favourite one, and we'll discover a little bit what led them on that path to becoming a serial killer.
So another option that we have available is our level 3 A-level psychology programme. The A-level psychology runs across 2 years, so it's a 2-year course. And in terms of assessment, at the end of those 2 years, you will sit 3 exam papers. Those 3 exam papers are then sort of the topics that make up the 2 years of your A-level. So one of those exam papers is research methods, and research methods is a topic that we will study in your first year primarily of psychology, but it does sort of run into your second year. And the research methods unit is the really sciencey unit of psychology. So it's where we examine how we carry out experiments on humans. So things like independent variables, dependent variables, types of experiments. It is also worth noting in that research methods module, there is a statistics element. So there's a 10% maths requirement for the psychology A-level. And so it's looking at statistical tests. We'll look at things like the mean, median and mode, so measures of central tendency that you may recognise from school. So that is your research methods unit. Paper 2 is called core studies, and we will look at key pieces of research in psychology. So just to give you a bit of an example of some of the things we'll look at and the behaviours we'll examine, we'll look at things like eyewitness testimony. So when you witness a crime, how good are you at recalling that information that you've just seen? We'll look at aspects of biological psychology. So a study where they took individuals that had really, really severe epilepsy, and a treatment for this really severe epilepsy was to separate what's known as the corpus callosum that joins your two hemispheres of your brain together. And so we'll look at how those individuals kind of lived with two separate hemispheres essentially. We'll look at things like phobias, we examine autism, we look at obedience, so a really famous study which required individuals to deliver an electric shock to another person. So that core studies unit, we look at a whole variety of different behaviours in psychology that will hopefully be of interest to you. Going into your second year, because core studies we do in your first, we will explore mental health issues in psychology. So we'll look at depression, we'll look at phobias, we'll look at schizophrenia. We look at the history of mental illness when they used to do really pleasant things to people like drill holes in their head. And we'll look at treatments as well of the disorders. We examine child psychology, so things like perception, child intelligence. We'll look at education for children as well as attachment, so how well you attach to your caregiver and hopefully how well they attach to you. And then we'll also examine criminal psychology, so we'll look at what makes a criminal, so the biological aspects, things like upbringing that might influence you becoming a criminal. We'll look at the effect of things like accent on jury behaviour. We'll also look at the effect of prisons and the effect that they have on kind of criminals, and we'll also examine things like collection and processing of forensic evidence like fingerprints, and that would then be your third paper in psychology. So a whole range of topics that we examine across those 2 years. In order to be able to come on to the A-level in psychology, you need to ensure that you've got at least a 5 in your science, English and maths subjects. If you are looking at possibly achieving less than a 5 in your English, science and maths, then we do have another option available, which is our level 3. So it's the same level as the A-level course, but it is a BTech Applied Psychology. Sharon's going to explain the first year of our BTech option.
Okay, so the BTech is slightly different, and I'm going to talk you through how it's just a tiny bit different and why we require a slightly lower grade in English, Maths and Science because of that. So it's got research methods, it's got the same sort of studies in it, almost exactly the same studies. There are a tiny few differences. The main difference is the way you're assessed. So it's a mixture of assignments and then an exam in the first year, and then Nick will go on to talk a little bit more in a minute, and in the second year, mixture of assignments and then an exam at the end. So the reason why you need less in your English, Maths and Science is because the math stuff and the really sciencey bit is assessed in the way of assignments, and we can help you a little bit more with that. You don't have to wait the whole 2 years and then go into an exam hall and then panic when you get to the maths bit. So it is exactly the same content for quite a big majority of the time that you are doing it to the A-level. It carries exactly the same amount of UCAS points. It's just the difference in the way you're assessed. It's not any easier than the A-level. You need to be able to want to write and be able to work a little bit more independently in the BTech. So exactly the same when you come out with your grade, and it will show to universities that you can actually write and meet deadlines and do all those sorts of things. So when we're doing research methods in the applied psychology, you will, as the name suggests, apply your psychology. So you carry out your own experiment, you write it up. That's the research methods of the applied psychology. Then we move on to the studies, and we look at very similar studies to what was in the A-level. There are tiny differences, and you have to be able to apply those studies to the real world. So we look at those studies through trying to explain things like aggression, trying to explain why there are gender differences, through the topics that we've looked at. And then at the end of that first year, you sit your exam and you've got half your qualification already. Nikki's now going to talk about what happens in the second year.
So that's another key difference as well with the BTech. So with the A-level, you get your qualification at the end of the 2 years. So after the first year, you don't get any part of your qualification. Your whole qualification comes from those 3 exams at the end of the 2 years. Whereas with the BTech, as Sharon's just mentioned, at the end of that first year, you do have you have a certificate in psychology at that point, and it does contribute then to your grade in the second year, because in the second year you go on to complete the extended certificate in psychology. So in year 2 of the BTech Psychology, again, it is an assignment and exam split. So your assignment unit is criminal and forensic psychology, and it's very similar topics to the A-level. So what makes a criminal? So looking at it from a biological perspective, looking at it from a social perspective in terms of a person's upbringing, as well as looking at things like prisons. So we examine how ethical they are and the effects on an individual's behaviour. We'll also look at ways of modifying criminal behaviour, so things like anger management, and we also look at offender profiling as well, so how you could profile a criminal and work out who may be committing a particular crime. And that unit is assessed through coursework. Your exam unit for the second year is health psychology, and we will look at addiction, so stress. We'll look at kind of gambling, we'll look at smoking, we'll look at alcohol addiction, and as I just said, we'll look at stress as well, so we'll look at how your body responds to stress. So we kind of look at a range of things within the health psychology unit, and that one is your exam unit, so you'll sit an exam for that one. So again, it's a sort of 50-50 split in terms of your assignment and exam, and then at the end of that second year you walk away with an extended certificate for your BTech Psychology. And as Sharon mentioned, that is seen by universities in the same way as the A-level is. So it really is a choice for you as to whether the level 2 psychology is going to be the most appropriate. If that's where you're at, perhaps that would be most appropriate if you're looking at needing to redo things like your GCSE maths qualification when you come here with us. Whether you want to do the A-level, maybe if you're an exam person and you get on really well with exams, that's going to suit you. Or if you're someone that would prefer to do a bit of coursework and perhaps your maths grade is a 4, not a 5, then the BTech Psychology would certainly be a good choice for you. So those are the options available to you in psychology in terms of the different levels and the different courses that we offer. So we've kind of already spoken through the different types of assessments, so that being that the different types of psychology have different types of assessments. So as we've already said, the A-level is the 3 exams at the end of the 2 years, and the applied psychology, the BTech, is a mixture of assignments and exams. And as Sharon mentioned, with the level 2, there are no exams, and it's a portfolio that you put together for that one. But all 3 courses will build your skills. So the level 2 will build your skills in preparation for going on to a level 3 in psychology, if that's what you want to do. Or the level 3 options in psychology will build your skills to assist you in a whole range of other subjects, but also going on to degree level, whether that is to study psychology or not. You'll pick up critical thinking skills, you'll pick up analysis, you'll learn about statistics. So it's a whole range of things that you really will pick up from psychology, and that will allow you to pursue a whole range of careers, from teaching to going into psychology if that's what you wanted to do. It might be things like law, counselling, so a whole range of things. Psychology does open quite a lot of doors. Sharon is just going to explain some of the extra bits that we do as a psychology department, just to make it a bit more exciting.
So when you're in your second year with us studying psychology, we have a Dr. Guy Sutton who comes in and does a forensic brain day. So he talks about the most current research that is going into looking at brains. He also brings a brain in for you all to have a poke and a fiddle with. It's not a human one, so don't panic. But he is working currently today looking into the most up-to-date research into how we can access access brains and how we can see what makes criminals, and if we can see those brain changes happening. Some scary stuff that he talks about, which will worry you a little bit when you go home, as to what is happening with really current research. He was recently talking about maybe we can stick a little bit of a chip in your brain just to stop those addictive behaviors happening before you realize you're about to do it, which is slightly scary stuff. And then we have, around Christmas time, we have a mental health professional come in, which really works beautifully with what you're studying in the A-level and the BTech, and he will talk about what mental health provision is like now, what treatments are available, how it's moved on from the olden days where we lock people up, and where it's more about community-based provisions. And he will talk about how we ways that we now restrain people rather than putting them into straitjackets, and he'll bring a load of stuff in for you to have a look at from the museum that he has there. We also offer university trips and actually going to a working laboratory where they are actually carrying out research, and you will see it as it's happening. There is a chance when we go there for you to be a participant, so you get to advance psychological research.
So that is the psychology department and the subjects that we have on offer. If you have any questions at all about anything psychology related, please get in touch with the college and they can connect you with the psychology department and we can answer those questions for you. But otherwise, we really look forward to meeting you and hope you decide to come and study psychology with us. So thanks for listening.
Bye-bye.
Bye.